I'm Elle Embers, and this is Cosmic Curiosities.
Hi there, and welcome to Cosmic Curiosities. My name is Elle, and if you would like to work with me in bridging that connection between your soul and you with past life regression, cosmic channeling, or energetic coaching, you can send me a message on Instagram or visit my website, lembers.com. And now that all the formalities are out of the way, I'm so excited to share this week's episode with you, because honestly, this is a modality that has always interested me. Today we're learning all about EFT, otherwise known as tapping. And I am joined by the beautiful confidence coach, Parul Sharma. So, what do you say? Ready to get tapping? Welcome, Parul. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
Good. Thanks so much for joining me. I'm so happy to be talking to you today.
Same, likewise. And thank you so much for having me. I'm really, really excited for our chat.
Yeah. Before we get started, did you want to introduce yourself to everyone and tell everyone a little bit about what you do?
Yes, absolutely. So I am a confidence coach for women, and I love combining spirituality and a lot of alternative healing modalities, along with, of course, mindset work as a confidence coach. So I combine techniques like tapping, which we are going to talk about today, NLP, which is neuro-linguistic programming, somatic paths work, inner child healing, embodiment practices. I'm also a yoga teacher, so definitely I love combining a lot of spiritual concepts and yogic philosophy in my work as a coach. So yeah, that's what I do. I am a life coach and a confidence coach.
Yeah, I love that. And confidence is such a big thing because I feel like it's such a common word, but the understanding of the word is sort of more uncommon.
Yes.
People don't realize exactly what the meaning of confidence is and how important confidence is to us.
Gosh, I'm so glad you said that, because I feel like that's literally what I'm harping on about every day on my social media. And you're spot on, really. I think it's just one of those words that when you're in a corporate role, when you're starting your business, or when you're out there dating, or when you're looking at your body, it's like, these are the three main areas in our life, right? Like career, relationships, body, or health. So we often look at confidence as just being strong and just feeling good about yourself and just basically showing up as like that fearless version of yourself in any of these areas, which is true, yes. But I think when I was growing up, or throughout my life before I got into this work, all I heard about confidence was fake it till you make it, or that you're born confident, or that, some people are just confident. That's just how they are. That's their personality. And then you can fake it and you can try to be confident, and then eventually you will be confident. So then when I started diving into this work, it really opened my eyes to so much stuff. Like confidence, for example, it is a byproduct of how comfortable we feel with ourselves. So stuff like trauma, fear, anxiety, limiting beliefs, trapped emotions, all of these things throughout our life. And also, what was our upbringing? Or how were we brought up or treated? What did we constantly hear when we were a baby and when we were growing up? So these are the things that go deep in our subconscious and impact how we show up in the world, which in turn translates into our confidence. I guess I'm just trying to say that, confidence is more than just trying to do good at work and trying to be confident when you're out there dating someone or wearing that dress. Confidence essentially is how you move through the world. Like, how secure do you feel in yourself, your body, your thoughts, your beliefs, And yeah, it doesn't mean that if you're confident, you have to be fearless and loud and powerful and all of those things. You can be soft, you can be introverted, you can also be polite, and you can still be confident because you have that belief in yourself.
Absolutely. I am so glad that you you brought that up and explained a little bit, because I mean, that is something that was really detrimental to me growing up, was the whole fake it till you make it. And when I did finally become confident in myself, it was when I did find where I was comfortable and how I was comfortable showing up in my reality and in my life and in my world. So I think, yeah, that's super important. And I hold such appreciation and gratitude that there are confidence coaches like you out there helping people to find where they are confident and comfortable within themselves. So props to you, babe.
Thank you. I mean, it's been a journey, and I can relate to what you're saying because it's been the same for me. Like, yeah, I used to think that, I'm very feminine or polite or I'm not loud enough or, I'm not cool enough. And so that's why I'm not confident. But when I started to do the work on myself, and we are going to go a bit deeper into this bit later, like when we talk about tapping, but like when I was doing tapping on myself with my coach then, and I realized how my past trauma was actually creating that self-doubt in me, which was stopping me from showing up how I wanted to show up and just creating a lot of fear. I was mind blown by things like these, to see how all of us can be confident. All of us can show up in our full beauty and power if we know how to access that power, how to be comfortable with our uniqueness and our gifts. Yeah, so it was really just that journey. It's been that journey for me, which really inspired me that, okay, well, I can see how this has impacted me and how this has completely switched how I show up in life. And so I want to help people, and especially women, do the same.
And mentioning tapping and how that has been such a groundbreaking experience for you, can you tell us a little bit more about what tapping is?
I love talking about this. So, tapping, essentially, it is EFT, which is Emotional Freedom Technique. And the name is pretty self-explanatory. So in tapping, we basically tap on our key meridian points above the waist. And there are 9 key meridian points that we use in like a proper tapping session or when someone is tapping on themselves. And basically, it's used to release stuck emotions, limiting beliefs, things that get trapped in our body, which in turn lead to anxiety and stress and all kinds of disorders and imbalances. So we're basically very much like acupuncture. So in acupuncture, what you do is that you put needles on the key meridian points to allow the flow of energy. Because according to the Chinese, the concept is, or the idea is that we have meridian points or energy channels running through our body, through which our chi or prana or life force energy flows through us. So if there is an imbalance or blockage in those channels, which often results as a result, because of burnout or trauma or, negative thinking, negative emotions, things like those. So that leads to imbalance in our body. So when we do acupuncture, it is very similar, right? It's like you're releasing that energy, which is why it can heal. It has the potential to heal a lot of diseases or a lot of disorders. And so tapping is exactly the same. It's very accessible in the sense that you're just tapping on key meridian points to release those emotions and move that energy through your body.
Without the pain of needles. I like
that. Yes, it's so good. It's so accessible, non-invasive. And you don't have to anticipate being stuck by a needle with acupuncture.
My dad was an acupuncturist growing up, so every time I was sick as a kid, I had to brace myself for some needling, and so I love the idea of not having needles.
Oh, you're going to love tapping. It's so great. It's like it instantly shifts your energy, and of course, there are no needles. There's nothing involved.
Amazing, amazing. So what can EFT and tapping kind of help us with? What benefits do we have on a day-to-day basis?
emotional blockages and our limiting beliefs, they basically are the two main reasons that manifest a lot of other issues in our body or for us mentally, right? So let's say you have certain beliefs about money, or you just were raised in an environment which makes you feel that money is hard to make, money is hard to get, or that you have to work really hard to make money, that, like you can run out of money anytime. So you need to be saving it, hoarding it to be safe. So things like these, now this is a belief system. And now if we keep thinking about this can manifest into anxiety, this can manifest into stress. So when you are tapping, you can tap to release these kind of beliefs. You can tap to release emotions which are being manifested into, again, like I'm saying anxiety and stress because these have become so common these days. But at the same time, it can be PCOD, it can be PTSD, it can be a release from trauma, which I have honestly felt and worked with in my case to release the trauma of losing my mom when I was 11 years old. You can work on pretty much anything, like let's say you were stressed because of some family relationships, or let's say you want to get more confident in putting yourself out there with dating or at work. So let's say the issue is getting confident in dating, right?
Mm-hmm.
But there is something else unconscious happening over there, or something else subconsciously that's happening over there. It's because, let's say, for example, there could be a fear of rejection, which is why you're not putting yourself out there. So then we start working on that fear and we go down to the cause of that fear and we tap that out. And in the process, we look at all the emotions that could be attached to that. Does that answer your question?
Yeah. That's it. Just super interests me, and I'm so intrigued. So, are there certain positions or points that are tapped for certain illnesses or issues or ailments or beliefs?
I wouldn't say, I wouldn't exclude a certain point. So there are 9 key points. So there is karate chop point, which is at the side of your hands, both hands. Then it's the top of your head, eyebrows, temples, under eye bone, under your nose, on your chin, collarbone, and the side of underarm, but side of the chest.
Mm-hmm.
So there are these 9 points and you pretty much just keep tapping on them sequentially. And as you do that, each of these meridian points are related to different organs in your body. So for example, I think the one under the under eye bone is related to your kidneys. And then there is something which is connected to your heart, connected to your liver, connected to your stomach, small intestines. So correlation like this, or direct connection of the meridian point with the organs, is what is helping you release those emotions. Because we store these emotions in our body. We store trauma in our body. And these are the things that lead to even when we say anxiety is inherited, like I got it from my family, it's not really. It's been proven that it's the sensitivity gene which is inherited, but anxiety is a manifestation of what's happening in you.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we tap on these meridian points for pretty much every problem that we have. But what differs is what you say. So the process is that you tap on each of these points and you say out loud what is bothering you. And then you keep checking with yourself on the emotions that are coming up for you while you are tapping and talking.
Right. So it's not just the concept of tapping, it's working through the emotions and the feelings as well while you're doing that process.
Totally. So the main thing is to work with the emotions and feelings. And you tap to release those emotions and feelings. And you talk, so you are subconsciously rewiring what's happening while you're going through this process.
Right. So is this kind of like a therapy-based sort of talking, like I'm expressing how I'm feeling, what my thoughts are, or is it kind of like a rewiring and stating affirmations to kind of reprogram? Or is it both?
It's both. I use it as both. So first of all, it does help to do tapping with someone because they can help you identify that there's a switch in emotion as you are tapping.
Yeah.
So it's really important for us to pick the emotion. Like, let's say I started tapping with fear, right? And then that became sadness. So it's important for us to pick on that sadness so then we can tap that sadness out.
Yeah.
So there's that, but also I often tell my clients that, look, if you want to go back home and you want to tap, and let's say this is a client who has a lot of anxiety, right? I just tell them to tap and talk to themselves. So it could look something like this. So a karate chop point is the setup statement. So I could, let's say, start by saying, even though I have this anxiety in my body, I accept myself deeply and completely. Then the top of my head, this anxiety in my body, I accept myself deeply and completely. So you basically just keep talking and you keep tapping. And then it can also go into something like you can keep saying whatever's coming up for you to shift and move through that emotion or that emotional state in the moment. So it could be something like, this anxiety really scares me that something bad might happen, that I might lose this, that people might get angry at me. This is my biggest fear in the moment. So it's essentially a practice of, like, you're talking and you're verbalizing your thoughts. So your thoughts are not just looping in your head now. You're actively moving them. You're shaking that stuck energy by tapping, and you're also verbalizing it and externalizing what's going on. So it's out of your body.
Yeah. So in doing this process, do you find that a lot of your clients come in feeling this heaviness, this anxiety, and this fear? And once they've kind of gone through this process, they're leaving a lot lighter because they're not having to carry around the thoughts that are going around in their head?
Yes, totally. Just like journaling, right? Like what happens with journaling is that you put your thoughts out, so they're not in your head anymore, and now they're out. It's kind of like this is also a proven thing that if you can't sleep at night and you're someone who really likes to organize things, you're a planner, then you put everything in a list of things, like write it all down, so then it's out of your head and then you can sleep properly. So it's very similar. Tapping is very similar, which is why often, yes, the clients leave lighter because there's been a shift of emotions, but also because they verbalized it, they talked it out, and we moved the emotion. So everything that was drawing them down, staying in their head, being anxious or worrying about things or carrying these emotions around and not moving them, now pretty much we've dealt with all of those things. So they definitely feel lighter. And I've had clients call me a couple of days after also just to tell me that they've just been feeling so light and it was the best session, and they did not know that emotion was lurking under the surface. They had no idea what was happening, that was also something that needed to be looked at. Yeah, so like they do feel lighter, they leave feeling much better. And the main reason for this is that blockage gets cleared when we tap.
Yeah. So with this built up energy of emotions, like you said, we store that blockage or that trauma in our bodies physically, and we're not aware of it, or we may not be aware of it at times. And so with tapping, you're clearing out the physical blockages from the emotional blockages. Is that kind of the idea?
So it can be physical, because any disease or any problem in our body can be mental or physical, right?
Yeah.
And obviously now we have enough proof that alternative healing modalities can really help you heal these problems. So it's both. So now if I was to think about it physically, examples could be like, there's heaps of research saying that, tapping has cure cancer, diabetes, sclerosis, multiple sclerosis. And again, there is a lot of research showing how these things are often manifestations of trapped emotions in our body. Hypertension, for example, right? Like people, or high blood pressure. I mean, I know my parents, like so many uncles and aunties, like who are on high blood pressure medicines for the rest of their life. But high blood pressure is a manifestation of extreme stress. like you're internalizing the stress. You're not verbalizing your worries, your emotions, or you're holding on to anger, rage, regret, right? So these are heavy emotions and they need to go somewhere. They need to be released. But when we're not releasing them, they're manifesting as this disease, as hypertension in our body. Now, if you were to use tapping with the intention of treating these, then you are treating the physical problem and you are also treating the emotional block.
And what would you say about, like you said, some people say, well, I just have anxiety because my family has anxiety. What about the things that are supposedly genetic? Is this more of hereditary trauma that's been passed down?
I feel like that is such a good question and I love talking about it and reading about it. But, there are like different aspects to this. So, first of all, there is collective trauma that our entire human race has.
Mm-hmm.
And then there is also collective trauma in specific countries, in specific regions, because of the ancestral trauma that has happened in those regions. Yeah. So like Germany, Japan, India, the UK, it's kind of like older countries have a lot of their own, like collective is for us, all of us. And then there is like that ancestral trauma, which has different layers. So it'll be in different regions because the races in those regions have gone through a certain level of trauma. Like, obviously we know what happened in the Holocaust. We know what happened with the nuclear bombs in Japan, so those are still being carried on. So yes, it is being passed on to some level to future generations. And now let's say we have even racial trauma, right? Like with women. So for hundreds of years, women were just literally burned alive for the fear of them being witchy and woo-woo and practicing witchcraft if they were seen connecting with even animals or plants or playing with nature, right?
Yeah.
There's that. And then there is obviously other stuff now, which is a manifestation of our lifestyle. So yes, there is, let's say, if we're talking about genetics, we have, let's say hypothetically, if my parents had stress and my dad's dad also had a lot of stress, hypertension, and now that's being passed on. And we often say that, oh yeah, runs in my family. Well, why does it run in your family? It runs because those blocked emotions were not treated over there. Let's say now my granddad used to live a certain way, hold on to emotions a certain way, behave a certain way. So that's the behavior that my dad saw, and then he caught on to that. And he behaved the same way, and he, expressed himself the same way, and those are the same emotions. But also, they are also passed on to the kids from the parents. And now, unless I do the work, I am also going to pass that same thing to my future generation. Which is why doing this work, which is why using these modalities, once you become aware, to treat the past trauma or to treat ancestral trauma, the work is, or the idea is to make sure then it's not being passed on to our kids, and we break it and we stop it. So then you stop it from being hereditary.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then obviously, there's like epigenetics. There's like so much that is connected over here. So I don't know if I should go into it, but does that answer your question?
Yeah, absolutely. I just felt like I'm sure there would be someone that would have had this question of, well, that's all fine and great.
Yeah.
What if I have this? And tapping, they don't think it's going to help that because they've got it genetically, or they think they've got it genetically. But when in reality, it may not be a certain gene that has given you this illness, but it may be that your parents or grandparents or ancestry has had this specific trauma that's been carried down.
Yes.
And no one's been able to process or deal with it. And it's manifested its way into being a specific illness that has just continued throughout each generation.
Yeah.
Which I think is a great explanation. So yeah.
Amazing. Yeah. And that's exactly what it is, what you said. So epigenetics is where we study the expression of a gene in a different environment or in different environments. So it's not necessary for us to carry a gene which is wrong, which has something wrong with it, but it's the expression of that gene in that traumatic environment which led to it leading to certain things in someone's body. And then that was just passed on because we didn't treat it properly. And another thing that I just want to highlight, it's an example that I heard of recently. So I just did a course on compassionate inquiry with Dr. Gabor Mate. And he's amazing. He's incredible in trauma-informed psychotherapy work. So he was saying this in a podcast that there is actually no proof to show that anxiety is genetically passed on. It is the sensitivity gene, which is genetic. So now if you're highly sensitive or you're a sensitive individual, and the environment that you've received or the environment that your parents received and their parents received was traumatic to some extent or stressful, then that gene is going to express in a way that causes anxiety, which is why our whole idea that, this anxiety runs in my family is not correct. It's the sensitivity, which you carry, and then the expression of that gene that we can control and work on by working with these modalities.
Yeah, that is my belief as well. It's not so much genetics, but it's environment and conditioning and trauma that has been passed down. So, yeah, absolutely.
Totally.
And what led you to tapping? What led you to working in the holistic and spiritual industry?
Yeah, interesting. Honestly, I think, and I'm sure you can relate, I feel like I was always that kid who felt a bit left of center, but I was just always denying that in me because, follow the good career path, get married, do this, do that, make everyone proud. And while growing up, I did have a little bit of pressure to obviously perform, do well, make my dad proud and all of that. So that was what was happening with life. But I always felt this sense of confusion that, in different jobs, I was like, okay, I'm good at it, or okay, I can do it. But is this really the plan for life? And that answer was I just didn't find satisfaction and fulfillment in pretty much any job I did. And I tried a few different things over the last few years. I moved 4 or 5 countries. But then I think really life and universe have just their own way of waking you up when they're trying to knock on your door and you're not listening. And I love that you're a past life regressionist, because this is literally where it started for me. For some reason, I was just really interested in doing my own past life regression. So I went for that about 5 years ago. And from that, I got some answers, but I was like, okay, it doesn't make sense. So I basically just started digging deeper into things. And then, so I went, I used to go for aura workshops, tarot, how to read tarot cards. And I started doing yoga and, started looking into breath work and stuff. But then lockdown happened and my work environment became so toxic for some reason for the team I was in. And I think that really pushed me in a corner to take charge of my career. And I was like, okay, this is when I changed it. This is when I shifted. I started working with a life coach, looking at different modalities, looking at different things on what can be my profession. And at that time, I was still very far from thinking that I can be a life coach. I can get into spiritual industry. I can be a healer,
Yeah.
But honestly, things just one thing led to another. I signed up for a yoga teacher training course. From there, in my studio, I started to really look into becoming a life coach. And then when I started doing that course, I was like, ooh, I want to do NLP. I want to do EFT. And I just wanted to make my toolkit very holistic. So there's mindset, there is tapping, there is spirituality, there's also modern age wisdom on, how can you incorporate these things in your life and still have fun, go out, have fun, have a family. You don't have to go isolate yourself at a mountain anymore. Yeah. And, it's just enjoy that, but also anchor yourself in spirituality. So really that's it's just it's been a series of events and I've just had a lot of fun noticing synchronicities and just being led from one thing to another. And that's just how I got into it.
Amazing. It's kind of the way, isn't it? We find something and it piques our interest and then we kind of just fall down this rabbit hole of of the next thing and the next thing to make it all fit together like a puzzle.
Totally. And seriously, Elle, if you asked me 2 years ago, I would have never imagined this being my life right now. There've been so many changes, but I think that's the whole power of also, we hear so much about surrender. We hear so much about trusting the universe and flowing with life, but we don't know what that means, right? Trusting your intuition. And then we're like, well, what does that even mean? So what's going to happen to my life, to my future? But then I think the more you exercise these muscles, the more you do allow yourself to trust in a higher power above what we physically see, the more you realize that you're actually being held by life. Like, you'll be fine. And that's really, that's what happens with most of us.
It's interesting you said muscle, because so many people have been saying to me over the last, I don't know, month or two about your intuition and your mindset, everything being a muscle. And you have to train your muscle, right? Like, you go to the gym, you do weights, everything to enhance your muscles and your abilities.
Yes.
Why is it not the same with your mindset and your spiritual connection?
Exactly.
It is also a muscle. I feel like we need to treat it the same way.
Exactly. Spot on. And like, I feel like I've been doing this little experiment with myself on trying to exercise my intuition and seeing what that results into, even trying to trust the signs of the universe and see where that leads me, and creating spaciousness in life. And exactly what you said, like, this is a muscle. I can feel it getting stronger and stronger the more I allow myself to work with it. But that's the problem, with anything spiritual, we don't have the patience. But we can go to the gym every day. We can slog at the same job every day. We can keep trying to improve ourselves at, that specific skill every day. But why don't we give ourselves time to just play with our intuition? Why don't we give ourselves 10 minutes to meditate every day to see, well, let me see what happens if I do this for 30 days, 60 days. It's just, I feel like we just need more awareness. We need to make this more mainstream.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, hey, let's set a challenge right now for everybody listening.
Yes.
This week, not instead of going to the gym, but if you're going to the gym every day, you can set aside 10 minutes to meditate every day. And whatever your method of meditation is, whatever works for you, if you don't know, experiment, see what works for you.
Yeah.
And let us know. Reach out, let us know how you go at the end of the week and how your muscles are going, because I feel like you're absolutely right. We can have all the patience in the world for everything else, but spirituality, we're like, okay, yeah, look, I had a mindful minute one day, one time, and why am I not manifesting the life of my dreams?
Yeah.
And it's like, well, it kind of doesn't work that way, guys.
No, exactly. It's like, why do we lose power? Why do we lose belief in God and manifestation and all these things so quickly? But everything else is fine. You'll keep trying the same diet. You'll keep trying to run. You keep trying to improve, but we wouldn't exercise this. And like, I love that you just said that challenge. And I just want to add a little comment to that. So for anyone listening, I just want to give you guys a little hack here. So think of this as habit stacking. And not something that needs to be a mammoth task, but just if you're in routine of going for a workout 3 times a week, 4 times a week, just give yourself 10 minutes before that workout to meditate, or after that workout. And that way you don't have to create an extra huge pocket of time and procrastinate and get yourself ready. Like, just give yourself 10 more minutes, maybe sit in silence, maybe sit out in the nature, and that could be your meditation. So make it simple for yourself.
Absolutely. Yeah, it doesn't have to be this huge task, like you said. It can be just something that you slip onto the back of another task, or something that you're already doing. Like, if you are already going for a walk in the morning, you're walking your dogs or whatever, just slide this in. You just add it onto the end.
Exactly. Like, when you wake up in the morning, just sit in bed for 10 minutes quietly. That can be a meditation. Don't reach for your phone first thing. Just get up, sit quietly, notice what's happening in your mind. And it's as simple as that.
I love that. Yes. Everyone, please give it a go. What is the worst that could happen, honestly?
You might just get more self-aware. Woohoo! Great side effect.
But I mean, if it's something that you feel like you don't resonate with and that's just not for me, the worst thing that's going to happen is you're going to spend 10 minutes doing nothing.
Totally.
Like, it's really not going to be detrimental.
No.
So really give it a go, because I promise the side effects and the benefits of really investing could be worth so much more than just wasting 10 minutes.
Gosh, totally. And that's the power. It's like, imagine all you need is 10 minutes to spend with yourself every day, and that's it.
Yeah.
There's nothing else. You don't need to buy anything. You don't need to go anywhere. There's like no process. It's as easy.
And it's a great place to start. It's a great place to build that connection with yourself. And if it's something that you like and you start using that muscle, then you can go and add extra things or tweak your practice.
Totally.
Because I mean, I think you would obviously relate to me on that. It's like, that's where we all start. We all start with that and it just escalates.
Completely. I mean, now, honestly, it's like my house is set up in a way that I'm surrounded by these books, or, like yoga is my meditation. I sometimes really crave just walking along the beach just so I can have, like, without any phone, without any distractions, just so I can walk and feel the nature. And it really just only gets better. It's like even like journaling, like I've loved journaling, and it's helped me so much in rewiring my own limiting beliefs and what I do, how I approach things, what's happening inside my mind. And I feel like it's only onwards and upwards from this journey. Like, if you're committed, of course it's going to be work. Like, you have to undo years and years of how you were being so far and add something new, right, to your life and routine. But it's so worth it. It's like life will reward you, the universe will reward you way greater than the effort you put in as soon as you start to do that.
Yeah, absolutely. And tapping has really interested me in this. Like, I think I definitely have to come see you.
Yes, done. I'd love that.
But what advice have you got for people who are considering tapping and they're not sure where to start?
Yeah, look, I would honestly say, if you have never tried it and you're interested in it, I would say starting with a practitioner is the best thing, simply because they can identify what's happening before you try it yourself and lose faith in it because something wasn't done properly. So, you could trial it with someone for 1 or 2 sessions and see how you go. Like, people can do these things online. You can go see someone in person. But if that is not an option at all, then I would highly recommend looking up Nick Ortner, his content at The Tapping Solution. So they've got YouTube videos, he's got his own app, you can obviously look at their website. He's got a book on tapping and manifestation. So they've got a lot of great content. And I think watching those videos and even just looking up, for example, a tapping video for stress, a tapping video for anxiety, a tapping video for whatever, is happening with you, fear, guilt, shame. Just look up those videos and start following the script that they have in the videos, tap with them, and see if that helps. Yeah, like, if you think that you can relate to any of these things that we're talking about, you're feeling a lot of guilt, shame, or heavy, dense emotions around something in life right now, then definitely see someone. But if that is not an option, then you can always do these things yourself as well, from YouTube, from, like I said, Nick Ortner's website is a really, really good resource, and I can share the link with you after this so we can put it in the show notes. Yeah, just get started. Like, just be willing to help yourself, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. And although you have all these amazing resources, the reason we do stress the fact to see a practitioner to help you with this is because we do want you guys to process your emotions in a safe way. So we do want to educate about informed trauma release. So if you are going through something that is really heavy, see a practitioner about it, because we want you to be well looked after through this process. And we want you to find the release that you're looking for. So definitely do consider that before going to other resources.
Totally. It's like self-medicating, like, that's not always the best idea. And it's worth speaking to an expert or a professional who can really help you move through these things in a very organized way. Yeah.
Definitely. Well, thank you so much for all of your wisdom today. I really, really appreciate it. But if anyone's wanting to work with you specifically and they've got questions or they just want to reach out, where can they find you?
Thank you. And also thank you for having me. I've had such a good time chatting about all these things that I'm passionate about. I love talking about these things. And also what a great way for you to, have this platform, have this podcast to be educating the listeners about all these amazing things that are out there that they can use to really transform their life. So I just really want to acknowledge you as well.
Oh, thank you.
You're welcome. Yeah, so I mean, obviously they can look up my website, parulsharma.com.au. I'm based in Melbourne. They can follow me on Instagram, which is where I'm the most active at the moment. And I am hosting quarterly free masterclasses. So if you're following me on Instagram, then you will get to know about these things as soon as I'm about to launch them. And I'm also launching a group coaching container for women in which I'm going to touch on all of these things and, do monthly group coach, weekly group coaching. So yes, all of that information is there on my website, Instagram, social media pages, and that's really the best way to reach me.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much again, and I always love chatting to you.
Same. Thank you so much for having me. It's been a blast.
Well, this is your Earth Side Spirit Guide signing off for the week. If you'd like to know more about how you can work with me, you can follow me on Instagram @l.embers or visit my website lembers.com.